And for some of you, it might be a repetition because I had taken this obviously for Jheel. I had explained that long time back. Even for Arpita and Pragya, I had explained this to a certain level. But that was like 4 months ago. All right. Any idea what is deep learning? And this will be a repetition for the others also, in a way. Not for now, but in the future. Any idea what is deep learning? Can you hear me or anybody there?
So it's a type of machine learning algorithms which use neural networks, something like that.
Okay. So it is, you know, the size of data. You see this? This is a floppy disk. Can you imagine? This is 1956. This is a floppy disk which costs $3,200 per month. Has anybody seen a very small floppy disk earlier? Computers had that option. You've seen a, what do you say? Not floppy disk. You've seen this sometimes? Anytime? Anybody saw this or used this? We used to use it in my college days, engineering. So this is a floppy disk. Okay, this is very small. Still, it's you can carry it in a pocket. But over here, what you see, pretty big. Then in 1980, you got a hard disk of 10 megabytes. Just imagine the size, right? From 5 MB, it took around 25 years to move to what? 10 megabytes. Yeah. And in 2019, even if I look at 2020, you get it very cheap. The cost is very cheap. So what this does is you can analyze high volume of data because of the cost of data storage becoming very cheap. You can analyze high volume of data. Earlier that was not possible. It was very difficult to do anything like that. If you remember, if you know about Alan Turing, it took him a long time to analyze that volume of information that he wanted to analyze, especially to identify or decode the messages. But I'll leave that for another day. Okay. So you notice this 2x and this is 25,600x. It's moved in such a fast manner. In the last 40 years, it's like the size has literally increased exponentially. And as the size has increased, the cost per gigabyte has reduced. Okay. You know the size of a DNA strand, by the way? This is a single gram of synthetic DNA can store over 215 petabytes of data, which is equal to, how much is this? 1 and 6 zeros and gigabytes. So it's pretty big. People have started to use to even store information. All right, that's how much the size of data you can store. Exponentially, there has been a growth in terms of from the agricultural revolution to the human genome which has been sequenced. There has been an increase in terms of how much volume of data can you use, and there are even machines which are very fast. So the machine that you have, the laptop which you have, is not that fast. Okay, if you buy a machine with GPU, that is very fast. It obviously is much more expensive than something you can use daily. So what we're going to talk about now is neural networks. Like Pragya mentioned, the idea is to replicate what the mind thinks. Okay, in terms of a neural network, it's more in terms of what a mind really thinks. This is the person who has worked in this area. He's the one who's identified this. Have you anybody studied biology? Anyone studied biology?
Yeah, sure.
Did you ever see a neuron under a microscope?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the neurons, it looks like this, like amoeba in a way. But and these are neurons of the brain. Okay. It's primarily replicating the human scenario. When I say human scenario, it's like when somebody touches your hand. Okay, if someone touches your hand, you know that someone is touching your hand. Why? Because a message goes to your brain. Okay, so this is what we want to replicate. You do not know how the data reaches over here. Somebody touches you here, your brain tells you, yeah, there is someone touching you. Okay, that is how the neuron, this entire process works. There are multiple hidden layers around this. So we'll understand some of those aspects. So in terms of this, we've seen the equation, right? Y is equal to mx plus c. So you have y, mx plus c. In terms of a neuron, what happens is these are your independent variables. This is your input and this is your output. And in between is your neuron. And there is a concept of weights. Each of these, so your mx, right? Mx, m1, x1, m2, x2, m3, x3. So there is this weight, w1, w2, w3. Understood? It's just a way of representation. We'll see what really happens over here. There are specific components over here in terms of your weight as well as an activation function. So activation function is more like, how do I put it? Let's say you're cooking food. You put all the elements in the whatever cooker pressure or anything, and that activation function can be when you light the stove. That flame is the activation function which tells you what to do. It starts cooking all those elements. So that is what is an activation function. You've seen this neuron, right? It has dendrites. It has an axon. The way it works, you are giving impulses towards the cell. You're sending that impulse is carried away from the body. So here you can think of input. So this is the skin, let's say. From the skin, you are sending an impulse which goes over here. These neurons are connected from one cell to another. So there's a bunch of neurons like this. Okay. So here, what you're trying to do, you're representing all of these elements in terms of mathematically. We are trying to represent this information mathematically. You have these impulses which are carried towards the body. So like I mentioned, when you touch or somebody touches your hand, you know that somebody is touching your hand. How? When you touch, there is an impulse which is felt on your hand. That impulse is carried towards your brain through these neurons. Okay, and then you get an output response that yes, somebody is touching you. So the way you look at it, this is your specific synapse that we call it. You touch it, You touch your hand. Again, there can be other inputs as well, but you're just looking at one specific element. So all these elements together, you sum them. Okay, that is, and then you give an activation function, so you come to know an output. Just don't dwell on the what do you say? I think it might seem a little complicated at this point of time, but you will get it once we look at an example. Okay. First, we're going to talk about a artificial neural network. So the main purpose of that activation signal is to convert an input into an output signal, which goes to the next neuron. Like I gave the example of food. When you're cooking food, you'll put all the elements in your utensil, and when you light the flame, that flame is the activation function which gives you an output food. Make sense? Otherwise, it's only going to be raw. Until you don't cook the food, you're not going to get any output. Any questions, folks? Am I audible? Hello?
Yeah, so we can hear you.
Okay. There are so these activation functions are various kinds of activation functions. In mathematically, there can be a step function. Okay. So the activation function, right? Like I said, you have let's say I have my food. Okay. In terms of the food, I have what food do I have? I have salt. Then I have what food do we take? Okay, we'll take palak. Then you have paneer. People might put cream. Okay, these are all my inputs. Then you have oil. You put all of this in a pan. These are all my inputs. Make sense till now? These are all my inputs. What do I do with this? I have put it in a pan. I have put all these elements in a pan. 1 second. Let me draw the. 1 second. And in order to cook this, what I need to do is I need to add a flame, right? I need to activate it, so which is why I am putting a red color over here. Not really red, but yes. Okay, so here you have this flame. Without the flame, this is not going to cook. Is that correct? Without the flame, it's not going to cook. In that same way, your mind or your body knows that there is something kind of happening, right? When somebody is touching you, your mind gives you an output that you okay, you feel something over there. That is what is called as an activation function. Okay, if you're going to get an injection which is going to numb your hand, you will not feel anything. You will not really feel that there is something touching you or no. Which is why this activation function is the job of this activation function is to give you an output. Taking this input and giving you an output. That output can again go to another input. It can be, obviously the final output is going to be your single whatever food you create. Okay, that is what the final output is going to be. But here I don't need this at this point. Okay, we'll just keep it one layer for now. This activation function is something which is going to cook all this together. That is the flame in our case, in terms of the food. Over here, the purpose is to convert an input signal of a node to an output signal. That output signal can be used as input in the next layer. The point is, how does the brain know? How does that signal reach your brain? Okay, it reaches through these messages. So it's like if you have 10 people standing in a line, one person is sending a message, tell something to the second person. That second person will send the message to the third person. That is how the brain comes to know, through these neurons. Make sense? Understood? Or it is a little complicated when you look at it for the first time, but you will understand it. Okay. So there are various forms of activation functions, which is a binary classifier, a 0 or 1. There is a sigmoid function, and there is something called as rectified linear units, ReLU. Okay, so if I give value 0, it's going to give me 0. If I give value 2, it's going to give me 2. If I give value 3, it's going to give me 3. In this case, whatever value I give, it's going to get formed as a sigmoid function. So if I put x as 0, it's going to give me 0.5. Okay, if I give x as 6 over here, it will give me 1. That's how the sigmoid function works. This unit threshold function, if 0, it is 0. If the value is greater than 0, then 1. If the value of x is 10, the output is going to be 1. Okay, most of the time people use this ReLU, and we'll come to know. So here we'll understand this. Let's say you are buying a house. Do you know what are the parameters of a house? What could be those x, y, z parameters based on which you will buy a house?
Location, area, square feet.
Okay, you have location. Then price. Location is 1. Area. Price. Yes. What else? Area, distance, age, how old the location is, right? Age. You have these parameters. These are my inputs based on which you decide you decide your choice in terms of, should I buy this house, should I not buy this house. Okay, and this is my output. Mathematically, right, if I look at it purely from mathematics perspective, what I will do, if I want to buy a house, this is my output. When we had seen multiple linear regression, right, what we had done was we had just taken all of these elements. Yes, we remember when we had learned linear regression. If I have this information like this, I want to find out the basically I want to find out the price. Okay, I don't need the price, by the way. I want to find out the price. So this price is not going to be there. I'll put the bedrooms over here. I want to predict the price. You remember that equation, y is equal to m1 x1 plus m2 x2 plus m3 x3 plus m4 x4. Yes, and then we had a constant also. So here you, instead of this m1 x1, you have weights. You have weights for each of these parameters. Each of these parameters is assigned a specific weight. And your price is equal to the summation of these weights. So you have W1 into X1, W2 into X2, W3 into X3, W4 into X4. You sum all of them. Okay, it will be sum of all. Okay, that is what is happening over here. X1 W1, X2 W2, X3 W3, and X4 W4. Based on all these parameters, there is a calculation of price which you can come up with, possible price. Now, what we can do is, let's say you have information related to one house, wherein you know that this house, the area and distance you are aware of properly. Okay. For this house, there are three parameters, x1, x2, and x3, which you like. For this, you know the age. For this, you know the bedrooms and the distance. And this, you know all four parameters. Okay. These are my inputs to my hidden layer. Mathematically, this is my input to my hidden layer. And finally, you have this output coming out. Now, what you have to do practically, when you say linear regression, right? When you had seen linear regression, so if I have this data like x1 and y1, yes, I have x as equal to, just want to put some numbers here, 2, 4, 6, and y is equal to this is how my data was. Oops, not like this. How did we do linear regression? I'm going to just change some of the points. 2048. How did we do linear regression? What was the purpose of linear regression? Do you remember how did we do linear regression?
The purpose was to understand whether is there any relation between the two variables that we are using.
Yes, but how did we find that relationship? So if you did not have Excel, how would you do it? Manually, how would you do it?
We
You draw lines, right? You take a random point
Yeah,
and start drawing lines.
yes.
And when did you stop? When would you stop?
When did we stop meaning?
I can draw a line just like this. Okay, I can draw a line just like this. I can draw a line like this. Is this the best fit line?
No.
Yeah. So when Then what you do, you draw a line again, right? You take this line and then you draw it again in a different way. So how do you
Yeah.
decide what is the best fit line? How did we decide that?
When all the points are closer to the line, closest to the line.
Yes, so if I draw a trend line like this is the line which has almost all points near to this line, right? So because we want to reduce this distance between all of these points, that was the purpose. If you remember, we had seen that some of these differences, right? We had seen some of this difference between this point and this point should be minimum, which indicate that the line is passing through most of these points. It is the closest to maximum number of points. That is what it indicates. So when I look at this format trend line, we had seen R square. So here it is 0.9165, right? So if I change some of these points, 2044, if I change this to you see the R square value is increasing if the points are pretty close by. Do you see it? You see the R square value is almost 0.9956. It indicates that, obviously I changed the data just to explain that logic, that all these points pass through the same line. Make sense? Which is why this error is minimum. That is what is indicating. This error is minimum. Understood? Yes or no? Okay. So in the same way, over here, what we look at is something called as a cost function. Okay, we look at a cost function. So that function, that value of that cost function is y minus y cap. So you know an expected value. You know that this value should be equal to whatever 1000, right? You know that this y is expected to be the price for this particular example that we had seen. Okay, we had seen the example for these two. Based on this area and distance, there is a specific price which you are aware of. Based on this area, bedrooms and age, there is a specific price which you are aware of. Based on the age, there is a specific price which you are aware of. Bedrooms and distance, there is a specific price. All the four parameters, there is a specific price you are aware of. So you know, because this is labeled information. This is not, we are not doing unsupervised learning. We are still doing supervised learning only. So you have the labeled information. What you're doing is we are going to train the mind. We're going to train the brain in that way. All right. So here we look at this cost function. So what it means, I know that the price is supposed to be 1000 based on these values x1, x2, x3, x4. Okay, let's say if the value of x1 is x2, x3, and x4. Okay. My price is supposed to be 1000. Yes, ma'am.
Y cap is what you calculate,
Yeah.
and 1000 what you're telling me is Y.
Yes. So let's look at an example here. X1, let's say the location in terms of whatever that number was, area, bedroom, distance, age. Okay. So we'll take it as location, we'll take it as distance is 10 kilometers. Okay. The area is 600 square feet. Number of bedrooms is 2 bedrooms. Age is 5 years. Okay, let's say the number is 1000. What we do is, practically what happens in a neural network is you assign some random weights over here. So let's say I assign 0.5, I assign 1, I assign 5, I assign 6. Some random numbers I'm assigning, just to calculate this. What I will get is, I will do some product A1. I get 645. Now I'm going to calculate the difference between these two. I'm going to square this. And I'm going to divide this by 2. Okay, I get some value in terms of this cost function. Okay, the idea has to be that this value should be minimum. So now if I change this to 2, okay, what happens is you're giving this information back to your inputs. The only thing that can change is this weights. Okay, make sense? The only thing that is going to change is this weights for which you will go back and change the weights. Understanding? Making sense?
Sir, after giving back the information, then we will change the weights.
You will not change it. The program automatically changes it. The purpose is to reduce this difference.
So instead of like 645, we will now give 1000 or some value near to
1000 is the price. 1000 is the price. These are my weights. Only thing which changes over here is the weights.
So the program will automatically change the weights.
Yes, based on this difference,
How?
right?
Based on the difference, okay.
Yes, it will try and reduce this difference. It goes on doing it
So
again and again.
So we have to reduce the difference.
No, the program will automatically do that. I am just explaining the logic, what happens. There are already functions which are developed. You don't need to do anything like that. You just need to pass the right parameters to the function.
Okay, sir.
Okay, but you understood the logic, what happens over here. This is just one example that you have this for this one parameter, right? For this one particular parameter. Okay, I have this one example. Like this, I have other data sets also. So let's look at this example. Okay, I have data like this. Okay, I have row number, study hours, sleep, quiz, and exam. So based on how much hours you studied, how much time you slept, how much you got in the quiz, right? You want to predict what is the value you got in the exam. Based on these three parameters, how much you have studied,